I'm Nathan Harper. My pronouns are he, him, and I am calling from Denton, Texas, where I live and work as an educator and artist.
Oh, cool. I know some folks from Denton.
Oh, no way. That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Small world.
Yeah.
And my name is Babak. My pronouns are he, him. I am in Athens, Greece.
Oh, my girlfriend's there right now.
It's
Oh,
cool.
wow. That's cool.
Very
Maybe
small
we should have
world.
a cup of coffee.
Yeah, they have a closing in a couple of days. I can send it to you if you want to check it out.
Yeah, sure. I'd be interested.
Um, anyway, my next question is, what is the title of your piece and when did you make it?
The first piece is called The Lost Wood. We worked on it last year and we launched it on the 6th of May of 2021. And the other piece is Mind Flaying Flavored Flails, which we worked in from September to November. And it was launched, I think, on 20th of January of 2023.
Very specific. Most people are like, I can't quite remember. I think it was like 2021.
I'm impressed you remember the exact dates because
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. I did not.
No, I have very good memories. Like cares also an advantage.
And so, yeah, just tell me a little bit more about y'all's workflow to create the pieces.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I think Nathan can start to talk about the lost foods, which was like our first interaction.
Sure. So, um, we actually met through Instagram, and we sort of created this friendship, and we wanted to work together. And we felt like the internet and this new kind of virtual space made it easier for people to collaborate, even though they've never like met each other and seen each other. So we started Zoom calls and like chats about overlaps in our work and overlaps in our interests. And we wanted to create a virtual exhibition together, and we were really interested in what the virtual space, where it was from, where what it meant, because we didn't want to just build like a virtual white cube space that seemed kind of not as interesting. So we started thinking about virtual spaces that already existed and could be reappropriated. And we actually the first one that we came up with was actually from The Legend of Zelda. It was the Spider House, which is like a constant in throughout the games, and we wanted to do that one. But as that was kind of just our first initial idea. So actually, like, all of my notes about the show at the top say Spider House working title, but we ended up shifting to the Lost Woods, which is a space also in The Legend of Zelda that we were interested in its lore, but also in how it functions in the game itself. That it is, um, it's a it's like the tutorial stage where you're learning how to interact with the world. The way that things are spaced out is so conveniently teaching you how to be in this virtual world. But then also in the lore of the game, it's a space between worlds that has no solidity, that you could go through one door and you disappear in another place, and it doesn't make spatial logical sense. But that was kind of how we were feeling about the internet at the time. That was kind of this like in between space that didn't have a solidified culture or identity. So it became the space where we met. We basically ripped it from the game, put it in our space, and started populating it with our artwork. And we both chose to share different aspects of our work that we felt spoke to each other in a unique way.
That's really, really great. I mean, I love sort of using the vocabulary of games to talk about the internet. And so the first one at least is pretty like deep pandemic, I feel like. I'm curious, like, what were y'all practices like before the pandemic, and sort of how did it affect them?
I will start with that because it's one of the reasons my work and Nathan, well, what's the word? Conjugates together. It's like before the pandemic, I didn't have like an identity as an artist, and since my origins are from Iran, but I grew up in Greece, I was like going and meeting artists, curators, and all this, etc. And the first thing I would tell them was like, "Hey, I'm from Iran." They were like, "Oh yeah, so your art must be so Iranian." I was like, "In what sense do you mean? Like traditional sense? Like all Iranian artists are very traditional." I'm like, "No." So then the pandemic came, and I was very interested in trying to find what kind of identity I had because I didn't have any connection to like either like traditional Greek culture, like in the sense of art, like either music or sculpture or painting, but neither on the Iranian side as well. So I saw that through like retracing my roots and retracing how I grew up, I saw that I grew up within cyberspace and video gaming and this kind of stuff. So besides that, one of the other aspects was like I'm self-taught. I didn't study arts, but I was studying. I have a master's degree in mining engineering, and which I haven't done any practice on it because I'm against the practice of mining due to ecological factors, more and many other factors. But why did I say that? Sorry.
Well, you were kind of talking about your self-identifying as an artist being kind of a recent thing, yes?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I found connections of my degree, like not directly but indirectly with cyberspace and video games, and which I find like video games as cultural artistic products that have a extension of participatory version of them, because like it's not something you witness like a movie, it's more something you participate in and you play the game. So it's like some sort of performative vibe to it. And so I started studying stuff regarding ecology and cyberspace and electronics, and seeing what ecological footprints electronics and video game industry and computer industry and cyberspace, all this kind of stuff has on the planet. So I found a lot of this kind of stuff. And seeing all these kind of things in my head, I was like, okay, my head's going to explode. Like, I don't like this word. I hate this word. I want to be a child again. So that's how I got back to games I was playing when I was growing up. And all the narratives and the discourse I use from the games are like a child seeing the world from now. Like, because I personally have a refusal to grow up and become an adult. And yeah, basically that was with the pandemic, I figured out that part of the world of like how brutal the world is. And I don't know how in the USA it was like. I remember like the police brutality was all something very strict here. And in USA as well, I remember with the murders from non-white people and non-binary people and this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how my art practice switched from before to after due to the pandemic. I hope it made sense.
It did. That's it's like, thank you for explaining.
Yeah. So when the pandemic hit, I was actually a year into my MFA program as a painter, and immediately I did not have access to my studio anymore or materials, and I also felt kind of guilty about painting because it was sort of like I don't want someone to have to leave their home and be endangered just to see this thing that I made. So I just completely immediately stopped painting and was very much in the digital world, was on the internet more, and realized, that my cohort and my peers could be more than just other painting students at my specific institution. And I met people like Babak and realized that we had this like shared cultural moment in this digital space. And um, I actually shifted, like reapplied and shifted from painting to new media, and completed just this past year, completed my MFA in new media, and have been in very much so like a digital mindset since.
Are you at UNT?
Yeah, I just graduated from UNT.
Okay, so yeah, like Mel Clemens did a show on New Art City, and Kristen Lucas, both
Yeah,
huge badasses. I love them.
yeah, yeah. They're really cool.
Um,
I actually wanted to say that before the pandemic, I also was painting and playing.
What's funny is when I ask this question, many people say like, a bunch of like, I was already working in digital. I feel bad for the people who were like painters, for example, but you're the first like actual painter telling that story in this interview series. So thank you for contributing that.
That's cool. I love it.
And so it seems neither of you worked in virtual space like before 2021. Did you use anything besides New Art City before?
So my undergrad degree, I had a double concentration in new media and drawing. So I did do some digital things, but it was more like video and like animation stuff. So it was sort of new. My first exposure to like the virtual things was sort of like I did a piece at like the Shanghai Institute of Visual Art where they did a VR show, and I was really bad at it. I kind of just assets that I made for animations to them, and they're like, maybe think of this as a sculpture, and it wasn't that good, but it was my first attempt. It was my first dipping my toes into that.
I didn't have any connection with VR shows and anything, but I did video as well, but it was more like performative videos. So, but I was starting to get interested in 3D modeling and stuff. So this switch came at that time.
Yeah, New Art City was my first virtual world. I like wasn't doing virtual at all before 2020.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so I guess you have like some experience with installing artwork in physical space. I'm curious sort of how you approached the like interplay between physical and virtual, if at all, or sort of how you used like installation as a strategy in virtual space.
Actually, I think I did most things. I did put the works in like in both spaces, right? Not much, but I was showing them to Nathan and like telling me to his comments on them. I don't think I thought anyhow in like physical perspective, because I tried to do stuff that is impossible in physical space, like. Because we use a lot of paintings that were actually physical, like real life painting. They're like in the middle of space and nowhere, like they're not hanging somewhere, for instance. But yeah, for sure, like one of the things that was scaling, like the scaling of the paintings and the perspective, like I remember that was one of the things we were having in consideration, not being too big for the eye to see or too small. It would be like as you walk in a real space. And I also was very inspired by video gaming, camera movement and perspectives. Like for the first show, The Lost Woods, one of the reasons I did put my paintings, the physical one was like, I remembered in Super Mario 64, which you entered Peach's castle, and there were like huge paintings, but that depicts the worlds when the character would jump inside the painting. So something like that.
I remember that. I love Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
Good time.
Um, I mean, and sort of both of you have talked a bit about the like digital nostalgia of video games, and I'm curious, like, since some time has passed since you've made at least the first one, like, how does it feel to come back to the space? Like, what do you remember?
I finally can start.
So coming back to our show that we made, or
Yeah.
yeah, so we recently gave a joint talk at a conference called Ready Avatar One that was between McMaster's University and Virginia Commonwealth University. And that was actually the first time I've been back in Lost Woods in about a month or so. And we had to give a little tour of it, and it was sort of surreal being a step away from it now, like because we had spent so much time in it, building it, that then it was almost like rediscovering it now as a viewer and a phenomenon. It was kind of different, you know. Like I didn't. I almost felt like I didn't make it. I'm like, who did this? Like, why is this here? But it was interesting. Like it was I don't know if you felt the same way, Babak, but I felt a step removed from it.
Yeah, me too. I felt the same. Although I sometimes revisit both of the projects and those looks like when I'm not doing anything just to play around or any other like virtual exhibition hours are one. But I remember one of the things for me personally that stands out. It's like back then I was like in my baby steps in 3D works and stuff, and now I've like progressed a lot and have so many new ideas and got better to it. And I get back and I see like some of my models. I'm like, damn, why is it like that? I should have, I should have
Yeah.
done it better. But then like because I do psychotherapy and I have this thing with perfectionism and clinical perfectionism, and I step back and like from my autopilot mode of like seeing a flaw in my works and or in myself. I'm like, okay, but that's who I was, and I should accept it and what I,
Yeah.
it was something necessary.
And I think we've gotten better at like environment building. And so there's things that feel like no brainer now. Like I walked through it and like my characters sit still and they don't move. And I'm like, it would have been so easy just to have them move a little bit and that would have changed the whole thing. Like I don't know why I didn't even think about that, but like
Exactly.
while we were showing it, I was like, why aren't all of these animating? But I didn't think about it at the time.
Yeah, I identify with that a lot because it makes it really easy to sort of have all of your experiments immediately go into a gallery. Like in physical space, it's like you get to choose which paintings go there and you have to like physically move them. But in virtual space, you can just have this through line of all of these things that you know were experiments, but it was just like reached a point of like, okay, this is okay, let's see how it looks. And so I have the same experience. Like practically everything I've ever 3D modeled that felt done is in a virtual space. And like,
Okay.
my worlds from 2020 look like shit.
Relatable. I totally feel that.
Um, so my last question is about archiving because your world is itself archived by New Art City. And this interview is kind of an act of preservation through documentation. And I'm curious kind of how you approach archiving in your work more broadly. Is like returning to old files something you do as a practice, or when something's done, do you just leave it?
Hey, thank you.
Um, that is a good question, and I think that's similar to a question we got at the Ready Avatar One conference about permanence of it, or like how will it exist in the future. And we kind of mentioned we're almost a little interested in the idea of like digital decay, like the idea that someone might come across the link 10 years down the line, but some software has changed and things are different and it doesn't function properly. But that's kind of interesting to me. I've done work on Mozilla hubs, which is like it links to things, and what's one of the things that's interesting is I've returned to old projects and a lot of the links are broken. So a lot of the assets are like pink, or they're like little squares that say missing asset, or but that becomes kind of fascinating to me too, to kind of like enter this kind of dilapidated digital world that's falling apart.
Like all my old blend files before I packed the assets.
Yeah, exactly. And but like I like that idea. I kind of like the idea that it's not gonna last forever, and that even with modern technology and our attempts to make it permanent, it's still slowly falling apart. I I find that kind of comforting.
Yeah, you're totally right. And like we think, because it's like, yeah, digital media is the most precarious. I think it decays the most quickly, and practices of preservation have to evolve in concert with technology that's accelerating at an ever faster pace.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've definitely, because like compared to something like Unity, like JavaScript is quite like backward compatible with itself. So I'm curious, like how developing for the web will change over the next 10 years. Like, JavaScript can't last forever. And there's a point at which, maybe we have to use a virtual machine and emulate what like the web was like in the 20s.
That's so interesting. I mean, I'm excited to see what that'll be like.
Me too.
Yeah.
Um,
And the thing is like with all this technology like evolving so fast, and the trends also evolving so fast and changing. And there was one thing we had a talk before both shows with Nathan, was like to make the both shows as more accessible as possible, but we found it more democratic. Like we didn't want it to have like very high end 3D models or heavy animated models or textures that are very heavy, since the most crap computer we wanted the most crap computer to be able to log on and play without lagging or anything. And like in this conference we had together, after Nathan, I was presenting a movie I did through the Sims 4, and one of the
nice.
questions I got was like, what do I believe for the future of digital art and machinima art and all this kind of stuff? And I told them like things are getting a bit bad from my perspective, because I know a bit more like about technological stuff with my studies, and friends of mine who are computer engineers and programmers. It's like like how like the gap between the rich and the poor is like increasing like the recent years. The same is happening in like who has access to higher end computers, higher end software, electronics, everything. So like there's this game now came out, Hogwarts Legacy from it's for Harry Potter, and there's like a backfire about it because of the transphobic statements of J.K. Rowling. So I was planning to buy the game and play it and make a movie and like try to see like make a meta commentary about it, but my computer can't handle it. The graphics are so good, like my computer just crashes immediately. So I'm like, okay, so in the future, like virtual exhibitions, 3D modeling, machinima, games, anything, it's going to be so like complex and inaccessible. So what's the point of it?
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, that's something that I think is really important about New Art City, is that it's really designed for the least common denominator, where, a huge percentage of the world accesses the internet not through a computer at all, but through a phone, right? And like you think of these like 1 GB Unity projects that are designed to run on a very specific overclocked machine, and it like even getting it to sort of stay published for a long time is hard.
Exactly. I think it's important to have volume because it has music.
Yes, I found that this is the ideal volume to hear it but not drown out your voice.
Okay.
Cool.
So yeah, go ahead and read the statement whenever you're ready.
I think Nathan has a better accent than me.
Let me just pull it up. Do you just want me to read the statement?
Yes, please.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Lost Woods is a duo exhibition created by Nathan Harper and Babak. I always butcher your last name. I'm so sorry. Ahteshamipour.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Ahteshamipour.
Cool. The work explores digital identity and artificial intelligence set in a mythical setting placed within an appropriated digital location from a popular video game. This space, the Lost Woods, is a mythical space between worlds with fluid identity, much like the digital objects in the exhibition. Babak produces paintings of evil beings that harken back to ancient demonology illustrations, but contain the signifiers of contemporary sources such as films and video games. He attempts to deconstruct various beings such as the Reaper or the Jackalope, since they have a trace of signified meanings and connections to various situations, emotions, identities, abstract notions, or behaviors, i.e., ghosting, and cultural constructs. I love that connection. In this exhibition, he includes an image of these physical paintings and a digital reconstruction of the beings in 3D. They serve as an enemy NPC while still referencing a life outside of cyberspace as physical artifacts. In conversation with these NPCs are Nathan's AI-generated hedgehogs. These hedgehogs are produced using a neural network called a generative adversarial network, most famously known for the "this person does not exist" face generator, trained on hundreds of images of Sonic the Hedgehog fan characters. These avatars serve as self-inserts into a fictional world, but Harper deconstructs them from human input and finally gives them over to non-human vision. The AI even names these works by giving a text generator the titles of Babak's works nearest to them and allowing the generator to provide the following line. All of the titles then string together to create a sci-fi / mystical pseudo-narrative that is a duet between human and machine thinking.
I love that like GANs are now from like a previous era of AI. And like I'm amazed by how many pieces in this program were experimenting with AI in that period before Stable Diffusion took over. It's like one of these themes that I really didn't realize until I was like seeing all of them in front of me. So the world that we're in is shrouded in this dense green fog. In the distance, you can see those characters from Crash Bandicoot. I can't remember what their names are. Those like scary masks.
It's Uka Uka and Aku Aku.
There's a Reaper figure that appears right in front of us, and there's a floating green diamond that's spinning around that looks it's from The Sims, but it looks like a New Art City avatar as well.
Yeah, and if you read the title of the painting or the model, you can see.
Oh, this one. In The Sims, after all, we couldn't escape the game engines of power. And in the distance, there's a hovering text in this really jagged font that says, "The pure white of the flowing robe he wears in his place shows stark against the blood that stains his heart." Whoa. Did an AI write that, or did you write that?
Yeah, it's an AI.
I wouldn't have known otherwise. That's really powerful.
I think, Nathan, do you remember which title of mine you gave the AI?
Yeah, so with each one we gave, the images are actually paintings Babak made that have names, and then we would feed those names to a text bot, and then the next line that it gave us would be these texts, and also the titles of my works.
Oh, that's such a great process.
I'm assuming that one is generated from the skull or the painting to the left of it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So we're in this kind of It's not quite a cave, but we're surrounded by these like low poly gray rocks. It definitely has like a PS1 kind of feel to it. And we have these like messed up Sonic figures around in 3D. There's this one that looks kind of like, I think is that Knuckles? He's like orange and he looks kind of like clippy, like his body is like a paper clip. And then
Maybe
on
so.
the cave walls, we have several paintings. I see one of a Reaper in sort of cooler tones, and then there's another one in the distance of the same masks surrounding this purple jackalope sculpture. So where do you want to go to first?
You can go towards Jagalop, I guess.
Could look at that one, yeah.
So there's a purple spiny jackalope with green horns, and then the same jackalope, and it's being ringed by these two animated masks, and the painting in the background it looks like a lot more fiery, and there are these like burnt trees in the background, and the same scene in 3D that we're seeing is depicted in 2D as a painting.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
fires that burn are never the ones that were meant to burn.
Very cool. Good titles.
They could be titles from for death metal bands.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the right there are more hedgehogs from Nathan. Like yeah, in the distance, we can go from towards there.
This one looks kind of like a pillow stuffy. It has like it's pretty like bulbous, and it's red. They have a very powerful GAN feel to them.
You can go
Yeah.
inside it, and it's a very psychedelic.
Oh, you're so right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
like
looks kind of like a Rorschach even, or like it's not recognizable as a face anymore.
yeah. I liked what you were saying about like GAN almost as like old school AI. Like I feel like my interests in AI were definitely in that realm, and like I'm not as interested in the newer developments, but I sort of feel like I've like already been made old school. Like they've already passed me, and I'm like, oh no, like um, but I'm really interested in it not working very well. I'm interested in as kind of like machine vision and abstraction. So these were obviously like they were images at first, and then making them into 3D models was a bit of a challenge. And like the way that I did it, at least for this exhibition, was definitely making them into these little pillows where they're kind of just fluffy um, stuffed versions of these warped creatures.
Did you
It's
like
kind of
use cloth simulation, or was it a manual process?
it was basically like that. Like I just kind of mirrored it and then made two sides to it and just kind of fluffed them up.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm seeing things I would have done differently, but I need to be happy with it as it is, you know.
Yeah, they're perfect. This one is called "The Splash of the Knife in the Water Rings Out Over the Assembly as if it was the shattering of 100 crystal chandeliers." Incredible.
Yeah.
And so now we have the same jagged font floating behind us, and it's red text that says, "We will end all of your fears and bring you into a world of peace and harmony." We have another green hedgehog. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it became very fantasy and occult very quickly, like the text, which was interesting.
Does it feel kind of like a mirror that it's like completing your thoughts, or does it feel like a surprise that the AI took it there?
I think we were kind of surprised at where the text went. I think that we sort of thought it would be a little more down to earth, but it became really fantastical very quickly. But I was really fascinated with it. I thought it was cool.
And did that like inform how you ended up making the work that's in the space? Was it like a feedback loop?
It was kind of so Babak's paintings are those were constructed for physical exhibitions before this, and then this is kind of a transformative act of turning them into 3D. And these images that I had were also just, you know, like PNGs. Like they were a kind of branch of research that existed in my work but hadn't come to this space. So I think we were both taking something to a new presentation model to in this 3D space and making them three-dimensional. And so it sort of felt like our work was transforming again by placing it in here. So it made sense for them to be retitled and evolve with this process. This definitely felt like another step in the evolution of work that we had already started, but it was now like evolving again.
That's really, really cool. It's so, like, I love art getting a second life. I was talking to Danielle Brathwaite shortly about this like yesterday, and I think her process is really similar. So this scene that we're seeing now, there are sort of 5 objects spread out in front of us. There's a cave in the distance, and there's like a tree stump. We have a kind of diabolical looking like green Sonic, and he has this like infinity symbol or like an 8 and a colon kind of emblazoned on his chest. And we have 2 floating like ghosts that look like they were drawn with crayon, and then and they really do mirror these 2 paintings that are on the wall. One has kind of a peach toned background. It's kind of like a pleading ghost. It almost looks a little bit like a panda. And there are a couple of there are like a lot of gray scribbles in the background. And then the other one has more of a pink toned background with blue scribbles around it. And there are these like teal kind of embellishments around the ghost who's ringed in red. So are these boos? Like, are these Mario boos?
I guess they could be inspired, but not exactly. Yeah. And you can go inside the tunnel there, and it's the second spec.
The sound is really good. Ah, wow, yeah, I love a cave. I mean, it's like, I imagine if we looked at the game map, it would be quite simple, but like most Dismal Swamp did this, like this is probably like our 4th or 5th show. And it was like, when you look at the map, it's deceptively simple, but somehow it feels really vast.
Yeah, totally.
So we got a scary little sunflower guy swinging a mace. And he's holding a dagger in his other hand. Go off. It has this like jagged sort of diabolical grin with like red teeth, and his head. But this is just in the center of his head is a sunflower, and his face is in the center of the sunflower. And so he's also painted on the other side with these really great kind of interlacing patterns. What would you call those? They almost look like Celtic. Yeah, medieval, yeah. And we have floating red text that says, "A woman has dropped a clay vase to the floor and is now sitting on the floor, a surge of electricity shooting from her body and scorching the floor around her." She's just like me for real. And we have another Sonic who's more red tone. He only has 1 leg, like a flamingo. We have more ghosts and more paintings of ghosts, and an additional text that says, this is in more of a pink color. The splash of the knife in the water rings out over the assembly as if it was the shattering of 100 crystal chandeliers. I recognize that. Then we have a very characteristic GAN video installed up above us on this rock. This has very serious like Zelda platforming feel to it. There's like fire going up, but it's like the morphing between all of these different generated Sonics. Very GAN-y.
Yes. Yeah, I felt like I had to include that. If I'm using GAN, I've got to use the little video for sure.
And so is that documentation of where these Sonics came from, or did you make that separately?
So when I train the model, you can render videos or images out of them, and I did both. I have literally hundreds of still images, but I also wanted just the video to see it too, as it like is evolving.
You should make a website that's just an archive of all of them, like
Just like
10,001 fucked up Sonics.
yeah, I feel like that would be really cool. I've been thinking about putting something like that on my website or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you should totally do that.
I like on that one, I like that it can't determine whether the space in the arms should be arms or if it should be eyes. So it puts like pseudo pupils in them. It, every open the only consistent thing in the images, I guess, is the face and the eyes. So those are the things that appear over and over, and then it doesn't really know what to do with the rest. But I love the ones that like I feel like it should be the armpit, but then it's also an eyeball or a mouth, and then it's kind of between two. But every white circle gets a dot in it because it recognizes that as eyes.
That's really funny. Yeah, I love the kind of weird things that the machine grabs onto.
Yeah. I'm sure I could keep training it and make it perfect, but that's not really a very interesting part of that. It's not really. I like this. This is the interesting part to me, is researching what the machine kind of can't quite pick up on.
Me too. I think that was such a like golden period.
Totally.
Is there anything else that we should see in this world?
We've covered.
Great. So do you want to send me to the next one?
Yeah. Let's get the link. Here you go.
And we didn't. I realized we kind of introduced Lost Woods a little bit, but we didn't talk as much about this one.
Totally. Do you want to talk about that now?
Do you want
I
to?
think yeah, I can, because it was mostly something I had as an idea. So basically, this one is based on an experimental harsh noise album I released on 18th of November on a label in Brooklyn called the Jollies. Oh yeah, you have it.
Yeah. Here it is.
Yes. Yeah. That's my take. Yeah. And basically, the title of the exhibition is the title of the album, and basically we made 5 installations, and the tracks of the album are 5, and on each installation one of the tracks is played. And because the tracks do not have like a compositional beginning, middle, or end, they're like something that's happening in the background, I thought of showcasing it in this kind of way instead of like making a video with it. Yeah. And one of the concepts of this album is it's about climate crisis and technocracy. So the whole show is like in an alien land, which very certain stuff has been kept in the future by humanity, and they have like a very organic thing. So I asked Nathan if we could use his dirt paintings and prints, and all this stuff are printed and painted with dirt.
Painted with dirt.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did I make this circle? But it looks like you made this circle. I've made one that is a lot like this.
Oh,
The space, the garden, this like circle thing.
Mhm. So we're sitting on this grass circle that's ringed by marble, and on 2 of the edges, it's like extruded out into this like walkway that extends off into a pink fog. I can see a black sphere in the middle of this space that's kind of obscured by fog, and there's like a floating, falling avatar figure looping above it. And so we're standing in front of this server rack that has there's a MacBook sitting in front of it, and then there's a painting of a MacBook on the screen with like vampire teeth on either side of it, and a bunch of Lidl bags, like grocery store bags with rabbits with fangs coming out of them inside of the bags. and we have this like kind of metal text that says death grip. Above that, there's this like purple lightning painting of these two like claws reaching up. I mean, I love the game aesthetics in the paintings. There's this looks like a map, or like a map of a country, and it says death with like a scythe going through it. And then that same death graphic and a moth and this little 8-bit creature is painted in like a dirt texture, like it's kind of red dirt on like a beige painted background.
So the thing on the start of the death basically, Nathan has laser cut the logo from the band Death, like the death metal band, and he had wrote dirt somewhere, like in an exhibition of his, I think. And I asked him, would you like to remake that in 3D? And that's the result of it.
Yeah, so in this exhibition, some of my previous painting work is in it, and we that sort of, I had a piece once that was basically in the corner of the gallery. There was just some dirt dusted on the ground with that logo from the 1980s band Death kind of cut out of it. And I think a lot of people don't notice it, but I thought that was kind of exciting with the little dirt in the corner. And the floating image is a print I did where I injected dirt into inkjet printers and was printing images. It was really fun. I broke a lot of printers, but that was sort of like that was kind of the work I was making right before COVID hit, and I switched to purely digital. But
that's such a fascinating process. I did not know that was possible.
It's barely possible. They really don't want it to work, but it kind of works.
They don't want you to know about this.
I honestly think that ink is one of the biggest scams in the world. Like, the cartridges are very designed to not allow you to touch it. If you breathe on it wrong, it breaks, you know? So this research
unbelievably expensive too. It's like, it's almost easier to buy a printer full of ink and then sell it when you're done printing.
Exactly. And there's no real reason for it to be that monopolized. But so I already had digital and technological concerns as a painter. I was already not taking a paintbrush, you know, I was injecting dirt into inkjet printers and calling them paintings. But yeah, so this was a chance for me to revisit some of those and then like digitize them and think about them, my older work and my newer concerns in virtual space. So I thought that was really exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so interesting. That's such a cool process.
Thanks. I should revisit it. I should go get some thrift store printers and have some.
Right. So each of these circular grass things are also, they have like a domed floating roof above them. They have this like marble texture. Ooh, and I can look down and there's a floor and there are some messed up Cybertrucks with some kind of weird graphic on them that I can't quite make out. But we're going towards this airbrushed like barracks tent. It's like white, but it has these like pink and orange and yellow spray paints on them. So it goes from this like cool purple into kind of a flame texture. And I'm gonna go inside now. And there's a piranha character from Mario. There's a purple skull on this very nice like drafting desk with an iMac on it and another one of Nathan's dirt paintings. There's an Eames desk chair. There are a couple more paintings. There's a completely black unicorn in the middle of the barracks, and then there's a dirt painting on paper, a purple painting of some skulls, and a larger painting of the unicorn on like a purple background with piranhas shooting blue and red flames up at it.
So basically, this was all these installations were inspired by the titles of the tracks. This like track of this album is called Installing Logged Plugins in a Botanic Laboratory. Basically, that's like the botanic laboratory. And black unicorn reflects also to the horse on the Nathan's print, and on the left, on the other print, which has a unicorn in the corner.
It's interesting. You do have like kind of similar styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even like when you like look at our paintings, you know, outside of digital space, I think there's even kind of a conversation happening. Like before we even met each other, there was a similar concern. And is this purple painting in there? Is that from your World of Warcraft series?
Yeah, that's a World of Warcraft spell icon.
Yeah.
Shadow vulnerability based on the Shadow Priest debuff called Shadow Vulnerability icon from World of Warcraft. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, like I said, the game aesthetics in the paintings are really cool.
And the death grip on the previous installation was also a spell icon.
I really like this painting in particular. It almost looks like a tattoo flash sheet, but it's the same kind of like rusty red color. And there's like kind of like a sexy unicorn. There's some flames. There's this like gothic font that says "Still a Rebel," and then there's a negative image of like a buck in like a bright light.
Yeah.
Looks like a flashlight is shining on it.
Yeah, it's one of those deer cameras that takes infrared pictures of deer for hunters, I guess. I thought.
Oh yeah. Those are always so eldritch.
Yeah.
And I love this one too. There's like a seated horse with one of its legs seems to be missing, and then there's a cut off, like really kind of chuggy like skull with an eagle on it, but it has the stock photo watermark over it, and then there's this like spray like painted like dripping metal font, and I have no idea what that says.
That's impending doom.
Right, yeah, I can totally see that.
Actually, that's very interesting because there's another installation we used Doom, and I didn't know that was for writing impending doom. So
Oh, I can see Doom now, yeah.
I think doom is the only slightly legible part of it.
Yeah, slightly. Ooh, I like, oh my god, the Stewie Griffin with 2 guns, and the skeleton with 2 machine guns, and the barbed wire, and the 2 sparrows holding a banner.
Yeah, that one I enjoy. When I printed that one, I was like, that one works. That one really like they work together.
That like cackling at your own sort of insane ingenuity. Oh wow, there's so much here. There's a bear driving a go-kart surrounded by empty Pepsi cans. There's a shark coming out of a washing machine, which is depicted on the painting behind it. And in the painting, the shark's face it's really just like a tube. It looks really derpy.
It's very cute.
And we have a couple more of the dirt paintings. That says "were" in the same Gothic font. There's a reaper pointing a shotgun at us, and then there's like a cute little like mouse angel figure with this like flowing hair.
that's actually a character Nathan uses a lot, but I can't remember her name.
It's Gadget Hackwrench from Rescue Rangers.
Oh.
Yeah. There's a very large internet cult following of her that I find really fascinating.
That's amazing.
So she's a recurring character in my work.
Is this also her on the left of this painting?
Yeah, it's a more anthropomorphic version of her, but yes.
And on the right, there's like a kind of Dorothy looking figure, but her shadow has these like scary bat wings. And there's like a Chinese calligraphy character in the center, and there's more barbed wire, again recalling like a tattoo flash sheet.
Yeah.
the title of this installation and the track that is playing is called In Pursuit of the Time Wasting. No, wait.
Wait, I got it.
In pursuit of the anvil that was fed into the jaws of the time-wasting washing machine.
Your titles are so good, Babak. Oh my god, the bear's tongue is like so long and like out of his mouth that he's also painted behind us on this kind of like neon pink and purple background, and there's like flames coming out of the tailpipes of the go-kart.
Basically, that's a cart from Crash Bandicoot Nitro.
Crash Bandicoot is so fun. Oh my god, what is that guy's name?
Skeletor.
Yeah, Skeletor is standing on the on top of the black sphere in the center with his hand outstretched as if he's like levitating this floating figure.
Basically banishing the ghoul, which is the floating.
Yeah, I want to come check this out. Oh yeah, he's pointing his little witch finger. Who's this guy?
It's a ghoul from World of Warcraft.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
it's
very
not a
like
character, it's more like a random NPC.
Yeah, he's like super low poly in these like tan and reds. And we have a couple more of the dirt paintings.
I can tell you the process of that. I actually have him as an action figure.
Oh.
And I 3D scanned him and
Oh, I love that. So the painting beneath him is a pile of skulls and like some capillaries and the number 777. And above we have like a really classic like clip art Reaper, but his scythe is also an M16.
Yeah.
This like the sphere actually it resembles like a black hole, like in physics, and it's connected to the Tesla tracks that Nathan put beneath in the land, and it's like the biggest installation we did. And basically, the title is like, I'd rather be banished to the void rather than to accept disturbing facts. And I thought of that because there are like very famous Skeletor memes that Skeletor appears, says a disturbing fact, and then leaves until next time. So basically, it's like Tesla tracks for me reminds me of Elon Musk, who is like obsessed with colonizing Mars, and he doesn't care about environmental crisis and all this kind of stuff. So it's like, yeah, Elon Musk, you don't accept that you are not a good person, or you care about ecology with your Tesla cars, which burn battery, which takes from lithium mines, and etc. etc.
Yeah, like automobiles should not, or like individual modes of transportation are not a way to an energy independent future.
Exactly.
And so now I'm going back to one of these circle areas, and we have a dead deer with a floating balloon attached to its ankle that says, "Get well soon." There's a floating PNG of a gun that says, "I don't call 911," which is also present on this dirt painting on the left with a really cute little fawn on it. We have the Doom logo, and then above that, in the same shape as the O's, are these white eyes on a black background with some scary floating like green eyes. And then, ooh, this one might be my favorite dirt painting. We have the same deer that says "Get well soon," and there's this really nice like variegated IV kind of wallpaper, and the two images that are imposed on the scene are kind of they have like a white background, so they make these nice little squares, and there's like a pretty classic like funeral bouquet on there.
The painting above Doom, it's a spell icon again from World of Warcraft. It's the warlock one called Doom, Curse of Doom. That's why.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and the installation and the track of the album is called Death omens of dooms exercising influence.
And is this album also on Bandcamp? Is it like linked in the space?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's linked on the description.
Great. So let's go down to the lava landscape with the sunken Cybertrucks and find out what is painted on them. Oh, who is she?
It's the same character from
Gadget again.
She has more of like a PS3 kind of aesthetic. Like she has these like Ratchet and Clank ass like purple shiny goggles up on her head, and she has like red hair and these like enormous blue anime eyes. They're not quite anime eyes, but they're definitely like really big and cartoony.
For sure. They're kind of just peppered throughout.
Is there anything else to see down here?
no, it's just
That's it.
Well, is there anything else that y'all want to speak to?
I think I am covered. I don't know, it's Nathan.
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much covers the works.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. This has been like really, really fun. I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording now.